Hi, beautiful people. How are ya? I hope you're having a great day.
With you, I can be sad with you. Just take my hand and fly up through the dreams where the skies are so clear.
Yeah, she's ready. She says, I'm ready, Mom. All right, Tesla. Mama wants you. Let's see if I can get you. You sit. Good. Stay. Good boy.
Okay, it's time for our discussion today. Is fibromyalgia a progressive illness? Let's talk about it. Here we go. If you ask someone with fibromyalgia if their fibromyalgia has gotten worse, many will say yes. The number of symptoms seem to increase in a gradual manner. Based on current research, however, fibro doesn't appear to be degenerative. But a lot of us live with this debilitating condition and question that conclusion. It definitely feels like it's getting worse. For many, symptoms advance and quality of life declines. If you ask some of the specialists, according to National Pain Report, and I've linked them below, they will state the following. Dr. Daniel Clauw, quote, "It is very common for individuals with fibromyalgia to progressively worsen over time, but that does not mean the disease is progressive, which I do not believe it is." He further stated that downstream consequences of chronic pain is due to poorly controlled pain and other symptoms, becoming less active, sleeping worse, under more stress, and they develop bad habits which worsen pain. In this regard, he stated, any chronic illness is progressive if the disease is not managed, unquote. Wow, that was pretty heavy. Dr. Kevin Fleming stated, quote, "In short, no. Fibromyalgia is felt to be a disorder of pain processing in the central nervous system, especially the brain. Fibro symptoms can wax and wane and can progressively worsen in some patients, but fibro is not progressive in the medical sense, that it is deforming, non-degenerative, and non-fatal, unlike lupus or Parkinson's disease." He goes on to say that symptoms can and do improve, permitting normal daily function, even if pain symptoms never fully resolve, unquote. Dr. Randall Gates and Dr. Rutherford, who I will talk about next, have a YouTube channel that I like to watch. I'll link it below. Quote, "For a minority of fibro sufferers, the pain and associated symptoms can indeed improve without treatment. But for the majority of those with fibro, and in our observation, fibro does become progressively worse over time. Likely, the gradual decline seen with fibro is due to the chronic autoimmune and/or degenerative nature of the underlying causes associated with the condition," unquote. Dr. Martin Rutherford, quote, "For example, upwards of 50% of fibromyalgia sufferers have small fiber or peripheral neuropathy, where for all intents and purposes the pain nerves degenerate. and this is identified as a peripheral generator of pain. Other associated causes and factors of fibromyalgia include abnormal pain receptor transmission, seen in upwards of 80% of those with fibromyalgia, a form of autoimmune thyroid disease referred to as Hashimoto's thyroiditis, non-celiac gluten sensitivity, post-traumatic stress disorder secondary to childhood abuse and insomnia. In addition to the myriad of causes, the majority of fibromyalgia patients do become progressively worse as their pain results in deconditioning. Though told to exercise, the pain can prohibit this, leading to less tolerance for activities of daily living, unquote. Dr. Carmen Gota, quote, fibromyalgia can be a disabling condition, causing people to lose their jobs, income, and causing a lot of stress on families. In patients in whom the condition is not recognized and the factors behind fibromyalgia, such as lack of education, lack of exercise, severe mood disorders, and sleep disorders, as well as chronic stressors, are not addressed. The condition can get worse. In order to prevent fibromyalgia from getting worse, it is important to do the following things. 1, diagnose it early. 2, educate patients and families with regards to the nature of this condition. 3, identify modifiable risk factors that can be treated, such as depression, sleep disorders, maladaptive responses to pain. 4, endure regular follow-up with a primary care physician, as well as access to non-pharmacological interventions such as physical therapy and multidisciplinary care to prevent relapses, unquote. Yeah. Dr. Ginevra Liptan, she also has fibromyalgia and a YouTube channel and wrote a book. I'll link it below. Quote, is fibromyalgia progressive? First, a classification is in order. What physicians mean by progressive illness is one in which function is lost over time. The classic example being multiple sclerosis, an illness characterized by progressive nerve damage and a loss of muscle function. Using that definition, fibromyalgia is not progressive. But what most people are really asking with that question is, does fibromyalgia get worse over time? In my experience, it generally does not. But this depends on 2 competing factors. First, as we age, we lose muscle strength and flexibility, develop wear and tear arthritis, and sleep quality diminishes. All of these can cause pain, fatigue, and fog to worsen over time. She stated more, but I'll let you read it. But basically, she says that we must learn ways to manage fibro to lessen symptoms. But she says for most people, symptoms do not worsen over time. And that kind of surprised me. Dr. Neil Nathan, he's an author, and I'll link his book below. Quote, the answer is that for some patients, it is, and for some, it isn't. It is important to understand for each patient individually the cause or causes of their fibromyalgia, which is not a thing, but a syndrome. First, it can be cured or improved only by identifying those causes, and whether or not it is progressive depends on whether and to what extent those causes are addressed, unquote. Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum, quote, "It varies from person to person. In most people, though, it can progress to a certain level of severity and then tends to stay at that level until treated. It may spontaneously resolve in some, but is unlikely to do so on its own after 5 years. He recommends his SHINE protocol, and I'll link that below." So it appears there is somewhat of a consensus on whether fibro is progressive or not. Apparently not in the typical medical sense, but in the human sense. But the true definition of progressive in the medical field doesn't seem to allow for fibro to be designated as such. But what do you think? According to Mayo Clinic, quote, "At the heart of many therapy options and lifestyle steps is the goal of retraining the brain and nervous system so that the shouting of pain signals grows quieter, allowing more pleasant signals to be heard as one works to change and gain control over the pain experience," unquote. They go on to say, quote, "Your body is covered in sensor cells, which keeps track of every sensation in your body and send that information through your spinal cord to the brain. The brain decides what to do with this information. Too cold? Put on a sweater. I'm wearing long sleeves in summer. It's cold in here to me. Thirsty? Have a drink of water. With central sensitization, communication of signals from sensor cells through the spinal cord gets amplified. Over time, the entire nervous system gets turned up to high alert, and the brain starts to think that ordinary sensations, such as light touch or digestive grumble, are painful. I did a video where I talked about central sensitization here. It's my most recent one. The pathways for the brain change for the worse. We know that people with fibro may have twice as many hospitalizations than someone without fibro. We know that many people with fibro have lower quality of life. We know that there are 3 times more adults with fibro who have major depression than adults without fibro. We know that there are higher rates and injuries among people with fibro, but mortality among adults with fibro is similar to the general population. And we know that there are higher rates of other rheumatic conditions that are overlapping among fibro patients like lupus and RA. But that doesn't have to be the end of the story. Beautiful people, we are overcomers. We are fighters. We have what is needed within us to improve our quality of life and live a happy and successful life, whatever that definition means to you. And most likely, that definition has changed since fibro. But that's okay, because life doesn't have to be set in stone. We make the most of what we have and can choose to live. So, is fibro progressive? Well, fibro isn't life-threatening, and life expectancy isn't shorter for those of us with fibro. That's good news. So in that sense, fibro isn't progressive because it doesn't damage joints and muscles or organs, unless, of course, you have an overlapping condition like neuropathy, Hashimoto's disease, or lupus that's untreated. According to Very Well Health, a progressive disorder is a disease or health condition that gets worse over time, resulting in general decline in health or function. Well, in that sense, we can consider fibro a progressive disorder, but they go on to say, a progressive disease does not have relapsing and remitting periods of time. And we know that we are like yo-yos. We get better, we get worse, we get better, we get worse. Osteoarthritis is degenerative because joints deteriorate, causing joint stiffness and pain. I had a friend who died of Huntington's disease. Her whole entire family died of the disease. All of her siblings were wiped out. It's a horrible disease and led to her death. That's progressive in the medical sense. However, there's no cure for fibromyalgia. It's chronic. And when I was studying fibro years ago, even then, researchers stated that it came on slowly and progressed over time. What is important to note is that we do have ways to keep it under control, unlike Huntington's disease or osteoarthritis. I know that I went through a lot of emotional struggles recently when taking care of my dog, Goldie. People told me to put her down. I wasn't ready. And I don't think she was ready either. My husband let me make that decision because I was the one at home taking care of her. But as she suffered, I suffered. My pain and anxiety got worse. I loved her so much. And letting her go took a while. It was hard. If you have loved a pet like that, you know what I mean. I gave her 2.5 more months to live with us. And I'm not sorry that I did that. Yes, it was difficult on my emotional state, which affected my physical state because it works that way in most of us with fibro and people even without fibro. That's why it's so important to take care of ourselves. You beautiful people helped me get through it. You were encouraging and supportive. Thank you. I'm in a good place now. My pain is better and my emotional state is calmer. I understand how our symptoms can progress, but I also understand that we can help ourselves get better. It takes work. And we may not be the same person we were before fibro, but we can be better people with fibro. According to Mayo Clinic, cognitive behavioral therapy can help. We can learn to gradually increase our physical state, relax and quiet our mind, establish good sleep habits, balance time and energy with pacing and daily structure. Set goals to help motivate and measure progress. Manage stress and anxiety to improve our mood. Communicate better about our fibro symptoms and overall health to our family and healthcare professionals. Maintain social support. We need each other. Eat a healthier diet, and understand the role of medications in our management plan. Living with fibromyalgia can be expensive. A team of experts is often needed. And if you like this video, please hit that like button. I hope you learned something. I send you gentle hugs and support. Love you. Fact factors of fibromyalgia. That was my phone. And a YouTube nerve and illness correct. I'll let no. So